Good afternoon. I hope this finds you well here on Thursday, October 29th. Yes, the month is almost over. In a little shout out commercial, this Saturday from 1 to 3, we'll have our fall festival, the first time, at least in a while, that has occurred on a Saturday. This could be a model for going forward. Suzanne Ivy has worked extra hard reaching out to the community, some daycare places, to invite people to be here. At least the invitations will go out. And we'll just see what we see. But again, if you can come, help, support, be a part of it, please do so. This is a very busy time. Last Saturday was the garage sale, the first garage sale really in 2 years. And the proceeds from that will be going to support our benevolences, and we're on track to fully meet our support of benevolence's goals for the year. So these will be extra gifts that we're able to give to some very needy important groups that have needs in our community. The following Saturday, this is 3 Saturdays in a row we're talking about, folks. The next one, the first Saturday in November, November 6th, will be the Christmas Market Mark II. Modified, obviously, to be in early November, counting on pleasant weather, be held outside, which will actually could allow for more vendors. Don't know the final numbers yet, but Carol Graham's been working very hard. That's another almost 2 years since last done event. And again, that goes to support the Women's Retreat, which is scheduled for this spring. And also, it is for, often they give out of that fund. They actually make some generous gifts along the way, just graciously offer to do that. So we're very pleased with that as well. So those are my commercials. Final commercial, though, this Sunday will be twofold. All Saints, and we will honor those of the church who have passed since All Saints Day of last year. We're also including some of our extended family. There have been some services held here for people who, strictly speaking, are not on the rolls but are part of the church family. We want to honor those people as well. Names will be read, prayer will be given, and we will sing for all the saints who from their labors rest. Let me go ahead and speak to an upcoming calendar day. Is November 1st, All Saints Day, and a day of honoring all those who have passed. Some are more particular, and maybe the saints get it on November 1st, and then All Souls Day is then marked on November 2nd. But here, though, originally the idea of saint was simply the person set aside, marked, different. So if you belong to Jesus Christ, you are automatically marked and set aside, and in that sense to be among the saints, those who are simply of the household. And I'm not going to give the full history today, believe it or not, but over time it became to mean specifically those who have done particularly good works, and in some traditions, those that believe they were able, on behalf of prayers that they offered, were able to work miracles. But not going there, just saying that's how saint has evolved over time. And again, that one coming in, so November 2nd. All Hallows Eve was the day before, October 31st. And so Halloween comes from that. There's also a piece on Halloween, just to kind of see how it fits, is the old Celtic calendar reckoned seasons differently than we do. We officially, at least, mark the seasons by the solstice, the winter and the summer, the shortest and longest day of the year, and then the equinox in the fall and the vernal equinox in the spring. So autumnal equinox and vernal equinox. And that's how we divide it. In the Celtic calendar, those dates were actually the high point of the season. So October 31st was basically New Year's Eve. And the idea of the old year, that last bit of the old year, those from the other side could come out. I mean, that was kind of the idea of the spooks and goblins and whatnot. But we know that good will triumph. And actually, we have the victory in Jesus, so we can laugh. If you think anything kind of odd, some of those costumes or reference the darker side, we have the final laugh because we have the victory in Jesus. But then November 1st would be the first day of winter and a new year, and that would actually run through Groundhog Day. That's the day that actually marks spring in the old Celtic calendar. I know from my running days in Virginia, and had a house that faced due south, and I would watch on my early morning runs the sun rising at some point in my runs, either usually into I was coming back from the house, but watch the sun move up southerly, northerly, and over the year watch it as it would come up and move down there, and then move back down. And really the first day that really seemed obvious that we were getting more sun was really around Groundhog Day. So I'm sure that's part of it too. And I've noticed the same thing here. Our subdivision, I can look due west on the edge of our subdivision and just watch the sun has moved up, and I'm watching it come back down, crossing 66, so to speak, and going to be not quite to 30, but down that direction. Then May Day, and some of you may remember of a certain age, the May Queen and the festivals around May Day, that actually marked the beginning of summer. And then in August 1st, was a date, and it was later Christianized, but that was to mark the fall, kind of a pre-harvest festival, Lammas. And there is some, I think some of the European traditions, there's a special service around that, loaf mass, I believe they call it, in terms of dedicating bread. It's kind of a pre-Thanksgiving service, like basically the harvest has begun, we know it's coming, we're excited, in that culture, in that latitude, and to celebrate a lot more than you asked for. But that is Halloween, therefore, marks that ending as well. And really looking towards Thanksgiving, really all of November and Thanksgiving, for me, that is a time to look back. Christmas to me is very much about the present, and New Year's is about the future. To me, Thanksgiving and the days leading up to it is a time to look back and to reflect and to give thanks. But I'll be talking more about that in the days ahead. We are looking at Galatians, and I want to share just a couple of thoughts here. Kind of wonder how much further we can do this book. I've got 2 observations from chapter 6 I'll give over the next 2 weeks, along with some Thanksgiving reflections weaved into that in November. But I want to share here. Chapter 5, live by the Spirit, I say, and do not gratify the desires of the flesh. For what the flesh desires is opposed to the Spirit, and what the Spirit desires is opposed to the flesh. For these are opposed to each other to prevent you from doing what you want. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not subject to the law. Now the works of the flesh are obvious: fornication, impurity, licentiousness, idolatry, sorcery, enmities, strife, jealousy, anger, quarrels, dissensions, factions, envy, drunkenness, carousing, and things like these. I'm warning you, as I warned you before, those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. So there we have the fruit, so to speak, the bad fruit of the flesh. But in verse 22, by contrast, the fruit of the Spirit is love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and generosity and faithfulness, gentleness and self-control. There is no law against such things. And those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. If we live by the Spirit, let us also be guided by the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, competing against one another, envying one another. I think of these verses in light of the verses from last week that I referenced. For the whole law is summed up in a single commandment: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. If, however, you bite and devour one another, take care that you are not consumed by one another. These are times we really need to walk by the Spirit. Again, we're not always like-minded on responses, not only to mask or not to mask, to vax or not to vax, but largely in this country, a spirit of dissension has continued. Really, it just felt like it's year number 5 of a spirit of dissension, and maybe for the last 20 years it's been kind of off pace, but I'm very concerned what I hear and see. It's just not how we disagree with one another. So I just encourage you, in whatever the particular issue is, to focus on the fruit of the Spirit. How can I disagree, be clear on my point, but be respectful of the person with whom I am disagreeing? Pray for that in our season going ahead. I want to share with you a hymn. Number 754 in our hymnal, Help Us Accept Each Other. Help us accept each other as Christ accepted us. Teach us, as sister, brother, each person to embrace. Be present, Lord, among us, and bring us to believe we are ourselves accepted and meant to love and live. Teach us, O Lord, your lessons, as in our daily life we struggle to be human, search for hope and faith. Teach us to care for people, for all, not just for some, to love them as we find them or as they may become. Let your acceptance change us so that we may be moved in living situations to do the truth and love, to practice your acceptance until we know by heart the table of forgiveness and laughter's healing heart. Lord, for today's encounters with all who are in need, who hunger for acceptance, for justice, and for bread, we need new eyes for seeing, new hands for holding on. Renew us with your Spirit, Lord. Lord, free us, make us one. It is a very easy tune to sing, by the way. And you almost can hear that in there. The melody flows, the words flow. It's very poetic in that sense. It was written in the early 70s. Maybe has a little bit of that flavor to it. Was well loved when I was in seminary, and really focuses a lot on that whole piece of giving thanks for people around us and accepting one another even when we do not see eye to eye. Just want to conclude with the one verse here of "Blessed be the tie that binds," reminding us of the point that we're together, even when we don't see eye to eye, that we are one family. Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love. The fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above. My prayer for us going forward. Enjoy the rest of your week, this weekend, and as we go into November, let us give thanks.